Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. A Guyanese man sues Caribbean Airlines over drugs in luggage. This story takes the lead in our 964th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 15th October 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Regional carrier Caribbean Airlines has been slapped with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit by a Guyanese man who was held at New York's JFK airport with more than 4 pounds of cocaine in his suitcase in 2018. According to the court documents, in October 2018, Simeon Williams, 50, traveled from Guyana to New York and was held and charged following the discovery of cocaine in his luggage. However, Wilson, who had always maintained his innocence, had all the charges dropped against him 10 weeks after his arrest. The documents state that the charges were dropped after the U.S. investigators concluded that his bag was tampered with while in the custody of the airlines. Wilson wants Caribbean Airlines to pay him for his ordeal and its lapse of security that allowed the illegal item to be placed into his bag. In an interview with the New York Post, he said that although the charges were dropped, he is still forced to face questions at U.S. airports as his name remains flagged in their system. It is a contagious respiratory illness or virus that can affect your nose, throat, and at times your lungs, causing mild to severe illness and at times lead to death, and it's not COVID-19. No, it's the flu, and it has just begun. TV6's Nicholas Lutchman Singh has more.
Caused by the influenza virus, the flu season generally runs from October to May. The flu is contracted via droplets from persons who carry the virus from up to 6 feet away when they cough, sneeze, or talk. To keep the flu in check, the Ministry of Health is again urging persons to get the free flu vaccine as the symptoms are very similar to the COVID-19 virus.
So how are COVID-19 and the influenza virus similar? Firstly, COVID-19 and influenza virus have a similar disease presentation. That is, they are both respiratory diseases which present as a wide range of illness from asymptomatic or mild to severe disease and again can lead to death.
Ms. Sukchan, manager of the immunization program, said a person can follow the same public health measures they take for COVID-19 to avoid contracting the flu, as both COVID-19 and the influenza virus have similar symptoms.
New flu vaccines are released every year to keep up with the rapidly adapting flu viruses. When you get vaccinated, your immune system produces antibodies to protect you from the virus included in the vaccine. Another reason to get the flu shot every year is that your antibody level may decline over time.
She said it's even more critical to get vaccinated as we are facing the possibility of having a double-barrel situation with the presence of COVID-19.
We are trying to prevent what is termed a double-barrel respiratory virus season. That means a person can contract both the influenza and COVID-19 at the same time. We also want to prevent the occurrence of severe disease impact on our healthcare systems.
Persons at risk are not just those with compromised immune systems.
These are children aged 6 months to 5 years, adults over 65 years of age, persons suffering from non-communicable diseases, pregnant women, persons with compromised immune system, persons with chronic respiratory illnesses, healthcare workers, and of course, members of the national security forces, customs and immigrations who are in contact with members of the public on a daily basis.
The vaccine is free at all health centers throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
We do have a list of health centers that would be giving the vaccines Monday to Friday between the hours of 8 to 4. Please contact your nearest health center to get the information. Also, you can visit the ministry website at www.health.gov.tt and the social media page for the list of health centers.
Nicholas Lachman Singh, TV6 News.
Health officials in Trinidad and Tobago say the spike in COVID cases in Tobago is as a result of the recent outbreak at the Scarborough prison, where 18 positive cases emerged. 13 prisoners have since been transferred to Trinidad. More in this report from TV6's Elizabeth Williams.
At Tuesday's virtual health conference in Tobago, Bridget Smith, epidemiology officer in the Office of the County Medical Officer of Health, said during reinforced lockdowns, Tobago's COVID-19 figures dipped, but recently spiked during the outbreak at the Scarborough prison.
Unfortunately, while enjoying somewhat of a decline in the COVID cases, we did have an outbreak at the Tobago prison, and that has accounted for this spike in cases that we are now seeing.
She proceeded to give an analysis of August figures to present.
There was a decline at the end of August into the first week of September of cases, right? And we kind of see some of that happening here after the first resurgence of cases.
Of the 103 positive COVID-19 cases in Tobago, males edged females by 2%. And in the distribution of cases by age,
persons impacted by COVID falling mainly within the 24 to 44 year age groups, right? With the majority of cases falling in the 25 to 29 year old age group.
She said chronic diseases also accounted for statistics inclusive of mental health issues, cardiac health problems, and seizures.
35% of those persons affected by chronic diseases fell into the hypertension category, 15% were asthmatics, 11% were diabetics.
It was noted that the majority of cases emanated from Southwest Tobago, scattered across the north side and Tobago East, with Scarborough as a hotspot with 31 cases. Meantime, it was revealed that a building at Glen Road is being retrofitted to house COVID-positive prisoners in Tobago. Elizabeth Williams, TV6 News.
Barbados' Ministry of Health and Wellness said that 2 visitors who arrived from the United Kingdom last week were positive for novel coronavirus COVID-19 after being retested. Theirs were the only positive results among 435 returned by the Best Dos Santos Public Health Laboratory, and they have both been transferred to isolation. The 66-year-old man who arrived on British Airways on October 7th is asymptomatic, while the 76-year-old man who arrived on Virgin Atlantic on October 10th is exhibiting symptoms of fever, cough, diarrhea, and weakness. Meanwhile, one person is being discharged from isolation after recovering from the viral illness. As a result, there are now 16 people in isolation. 7 people have died. Recorded cases stand at 210, comprising 113 females and 97 males. A total of 187 people have recovered from COVID-19. As of yesterday, the Public Health Laboratory in Barbados completed 28,591 tests.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Over in Guyana, Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield was taken to court again on Monday to face fresh charges laid by the police. Here are the details from HGP's Travis Chase.
Police have laid 6 more charges against Chief Election Officer Keith Lowenfield. Lowenfield, as requested, presented himself at the Criminal Investigation Department at Ivlery Monday afternoon and was immediately told of the charges, handcuffed and taken to the Georgetown Magistrates Court, where the charges were read to him. 3 charges of misconduct in public office and 3 for forgery. His lawyer, Senior Counsel Neil Boston, spoke of the prosecution's objection to bail.
DPP, the lawyer who represented the DPP, was asking that bail should be refused, alleging that it is a serious offense and it's offensive to the people of Guyana for him to do such a thing. Well, we retorted by saying that is nonsense. In Guyana, there's a presumption of innocence. So the mere fact that you were basing your objection to bail on the allegation that you are seeking to rebut the presumption of innocence, and the law doesn't allow that. And that's how $50,000 bail each.
This means that Lowenfield now has 9 charges before the court. Boston indicated that the prosecution is not yet ready to proceed with any of the charges laid. And is the prosecution ready to go ahead with the case?
Not ready to go ahead with the case. They don't have any statement when we ask for pre-trial disclosure. They say they have nothing as of today. But by the 23rd, they should be in a position to give us something.
Attorney at law Nigel Hughes, who is also representing Lowenfield, shared his views on the charges brought against Lowenfield and other senior GCOM functionaries.
My personal view is that the intention is perhaps to have Mr. Lowenfield and the deputy removed from their substantive positions. And so by the filing of charges, there will be a basis upon which I assume the Elections Commission will consider, I'm assuming, an application for them to be either suspended from office or not acting. But like I said, you know, that would be based on what appears to be the trend going forward.
Police erected barricades as a handful of protesters gathered outside the CID, then at the Georgetown Magistrates Court.
No peace! We demand justice! We demand justice! We demand justice! We demand justice! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
Meanwhile, the police were reportedly called in on Monday morning to escort former Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Mrs. Karen Corbin, off the premises when she turned up at her former office to retrieve her personal belongings. HGP's Wendell Badri explains.
Police were called in to escort former Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Commerce and Industry, Karen Van Slyteman Corbin, from the premises of the Ministry's office on South Road after she turned up to retrieve her belongings on Monday morning and found the locks to her office door had been changed. When asked the reason as to why police was called in to escort the former Permanent Secretary, this is what she had to say.
I understand that, but I don't know why, because I was not behaving in any way hostile or threatening or, you know, any manner that would warrant police to have to come to get me out of the building.
Mrs. Van Slyteman Corbin is positing that while she was removed as Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, she turned up to her office to remove her personal belongings, and when that proved futile, she asked to meet and speak with the minister, who informed that she would not be available until the following week.
I came this morning to retrieve my personal belongings that I have in my office and observe the locks have been changed, so I've not been able to access the office. I, however, went to the minister's office to see her to inquire, well, how I could be able to remove my items. And I was told to check back with her next week.
Meanwhile, the ministry, in addressing the issue via a press release, posited that the former Permanent Secretary was informed of her reassignment, job description, and new place of work at the Exhibition Center in Sophia on Friday last, while she was still at the office. The statement further posited that after being informed of her reassignment, Mrs. Corbin indicated to the minister that she would not accept the reassignment, nor would she vacate office. The statement added that Mrs. Van Slyteman Corbin refused to vacate the premises on Monday morning. Thus, the police was called in to escort her from the building. After all these events unfolded, Mrs. Van Slyteman Corbin requested to meet with the minister, and when questioned as to the reason for her request, she revealed that she wished to remove her personal belongings, which permission was granted for under supervision, and which Mrs. Van Slyteman Corbin secured after permission was given, the statement added. Wendell Badri for the HGP Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.